morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dropping the Gloves. Thanks for joining me here today. Post-Thanksgiving episode. I hope everybody had just a glorious Thanksgiving with your family and everything went well. I myself, I did to a point. We had an unfortunate death. My wife's dad's cousin passed away, unfortunately, so we had to go down after Thanksgiving downstate to a funeral, so that put a wrench in our plans, and this sad situation. I'm not going to start off this episode that way, but just an unexpected death to a guy close to my age, so just like tough situation. But anyways, I hope everybody's doing well. I am doing good. I haven't had an episode in a while, just because of that and the Thanksgiving and everything. Last week got a little hectic, but here we are. We are into December. Everybody, it's crazy. Lots to catch up on. Just some, personal stuff. Everybody asks me. I get emails all the time. How's it going? How are the chickens? How's the boiler? How are the kids? How's the house? A lot of you like this portion of the episode. A lot of you don't like it. So I'm still gonna do it. If you don't like it, fast forward to the hockey stuff. Whatever suits you. The boilers, listen, if you listen to this show, you know that the boiler in my house has been a huge point of contention. It's been a labor of love, but it definitely hasn't been, easy. But I tell you what, I got that thing dialed in right now, and it is just beautiful. The beautiful thing about just throwing wood into a boiler and just letting her rip and coming back, 10 hours later and it's still piping hot is a beautiful thing to see. And Joey Kosher, I did an event with him and a couple other guys a few weeks back. And this was after I had him on my show and we were just reminiscing and just kind of shooting the breeze about cutting wood and how great of a feeling it is to cut wood. And if you're, man, woman, I don't care who you are, the act of just manual labor and then seeing the fruits of your labor, cutting down the tree, chopping the wood, splitting the wood, piling it next to your house, bringing it inside, burning it. I'm getting excited. It just gets me going a little bit. So it's a neat thing. If you haven't done it, if you're a city folk, I know a lot of you live in urban areas, cities, you don't have that opportunity. Maybe I should start a camp. Camp John Scott. You come to my house and you pay me money and you can cut and split wood with me. And then we can throw it in my boiler. If you're interested in that, let me know because I can make that happen. Starting with the low price of $5,000. Travel and lodging not included. I'll set my tent up in my yard. Somewhere on the 30. We'll set you up with a tent. I will teach you how to use a chainsaw and a splitter. And I'll let you have at it. I got a whole stack of logs that need to be cut and split. And then after a good day of work, hard work, we'll go for a swim maybe. If it's the summer, if it's the winter, maybe we can go for a skate in my outdoor rink. We'll have some beers and whiskey. If you don't like drinking, we can just talk and have a nice tea, milk, and cookies. I don't care. I do it all. I don't discriminate on what you drink and what you like to do. But let me know. I could be onto something. I think people need that. Get the body moving. You know what I mean? I do. I enjoy it a lot. So the boiler's doing good. The chickens are good. We got a couple new arrivals. One of my friends was giving chickens away, so I took 3, and they've adjusted accordingly. We're getting 14 eggs a day. It's a beautiful thing. It's an absolute beautiful. That's a part of the Camp John Scott. I will give you farm fresh eggs every day. I'll make you an egg in a hole. For those of you who don't know, it's a slice of bread, mayonnaise on both sides. You take a little champagne flute or a small cup, poke a hole right through the middle of the piece of bread, put it on a cast iron pan, crack the egg in the middle, and you cook it on both sides, obviously, depending on if you want a runny yolk or not. That's cooking time. Whatever you want. And you eat that son of a gun. I can do 4 or 5 of those for a nice Saturday, Sunday breakfast for myself. My kids love it. I love it. I'm just giving away all my secrets. Okay, I'm going to move on. We're going to get into the hockey. Milan Lucic, friend of the show. He was released from his PTO from the St. Louis Blues. He'd been playing down with the Condors. Was it the Condors? St. Louis's farm team. They changed so much. When I was playing, it was the Peoria Rivermen. And now, who knows where they are, the farm team for the St. Louis Blues. But he was released from his PTO. I saw some game tape of him. He didn't look good. I'll be honest. I like Milan. He's obviously trying to come back. He had a tumultuous offseason, had some allegations, had some personal stuff that I'm not a fan of and not going to get into, but trying to get his life back on track. I follow him on social with his wife. He seems to be doing well with his family. His personal life seems to be going good. Hopefully this doesn't affect that and he's able to find something else to do, because I don't think hockey is in the future in the NHL or the AHL. Maybe he goes overseas. I don't know. He still has a recognizable name. But just based on the eye test from watching him play, it's not there anymore. We had high hopes. It was going to turn out good, but it did not. It did not turn out well. Another thing that did not turn out well, Frank Seravalli, another friend of the show. I am getting just ripped apart, my friends of the shows here lately. They're just going through it here. But Frank Seravalli getting into a little beef with Michael Buble over Vancouver insider stuff, which in my eyes, this could be the dumbest thing anybody could be involved in, because you're talking about the Vancouver Canucks, who are just atrocious. Like, just a train wreck of a franchise. They have no direction whatsoever. Pettersson is playing better. I'll give him that. Not up to his contract, but from where it was. He's playing a little bit better. But this is a team that, if it wasn't for Calgary and Nashville, they would just be the worst team in the Western Conference. So for Michael Bublé and Frank Seravalli to engage in this tit for tat on Twitter and podcasts and whatever the hell medium they're using, isn't it stupid? Like, isn't it dumb? Like, I get where Michael Bublé comes from. He's just doing an interview, and he's just like, I'm tired of this Frank Seravalli guy pretending he's an insider. He's not an insider. Okay, I get it. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And Frank's paid to have these takes and to get people's attention, and now he's really, trying to maintain that spot in the market where he's the guy, the insider. He breaks news, so he wants to throw these things on the wall and see what sticks. And a lot of the time, he's wrong, which is unfortunate, because, I met Frank 10, 15 years ago, and he was just a young pup. But he's not making any friends. And for him to come back, and I know what he was trying to do, trying to make a joke about Michael Bublé's son. His name is Elias, and, he named him after Pettersson. Frank didn't realize that Bublé's son was born before the Canucks drafted Pettersson, so it just didn't land. And now Frank looks like an idiot going after his kid and making fun of his name. And I get what he was trying to do and be funny, and I don't know. Listen, I am in the same field as Frank, and he's been on our show, and he's a hard worker, but buddy, like, just stay in your lane. Just focus on hockey. Just that you're very good at that. Very, very good. Leave the beefing with the superstar singers to me. You know what I mean? Let me and Kendrick Lamar go at it. You can just focus on who's going to get traded, all the insider information. That's what you're good at. It's not a good look for Frank. It's not a good look for hockey. Michael Bublé is one of the few celebrities who is an outright just supporter of hockey. I met him in Minnesota when I think the Canucks were in town. He came to the box. It was a great thing. Nice guy. Super affable, super just fun-loving, good dude. Why would you want to wreck that? I just don't get it. All right. Moving on. Checking the standings. Everybody's like, oh, Thanksgiving. If you're in the playoffs, you got a 75% chance of making the playoffs. And based on, today's record, and I'm going back to Thanksgiving, which was last week, but December 3rd, the last two teams to make the Stanley Cup Finals the last 2 years, the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, they are nowhere near the playoffs, you guys. Florida Panthers, they are the last place team in the Eastern Conference right now. As it stands today, they are behind the Buffalo Sabres, they are behind the Leafs and the Blue Jackets and the Canadiens. Everybody. Are they going to make the playoffs? The Edmonton Oilers, they are 11th place in the West. They just lost to the Minnesota Wild last night, 1-0, which was a very Edmonton thing to do. This high-scoring juggernaut team who just, all they need is a goaltender to play a good game, and all of a sudden Stuart Skinner shows up and plays a very good game, and Edmonton can't score one goal. They can't even get on the board. And we've dug into the Oilers, and I'm not going to do too deep of a dive, but it seems to me if they don't score a couple on the power play, they're done. They're absolutely done. The lack, and maybe I'm overblowing this up, overstating this, but the loss of Corey Perry and Evander Kane, those two net front presences, those two big bodies who could just go and cause chaos in front of the net, that's a big loss. Because they still have the puck movement, they still have the speed, they have that dynamic attack. Once they get in zone, not having that net front presence to just draw a guy, to get the eyes of the goaltender, Zach Hyman is good, but he's not as good as Kane and Perry. Those guys were very good. I mean, you know how much I love Evander Kane. But he was good at what he did. So the Oilers are in trouble. The Panthers are in trouble. My question to you is, which one of these teams will make it into the playoffs? Who? Is it both? Is it none? I don't know. But when you look at Florida, I think their big issue is injuries. Barkov, Tkachuk, Luosterainen, Gadjevich. I know he's not a big piece, but he's still there. Kulikov, Nozick. And those are just the guys who are out right now. They've had a laundry list of guys in and out of the lineup for the first 25, 26 games of the season. They can't get any consistency, and it shows with their record. Yes, they played good of late, but they have no consistent push. Their offense is up and down. They're sputtering. This is a team that is just, they don't have a solid footing of who they are. And their coach, Paul Maurice, is saying all the right things. He's like, yeah, we played good the last 5 games. Things are starting to turn. But then they throw up an egg last game and lose 5-1. So it's just, or 4-1, excuse me, to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's just, they don't have that consistent push. They don't have the Tkachuks or the Barkovs in that room to just settle them down. And they're still a veteran team, but boy, it's not easy in the Eastern Conference. And this might be the one year where we could buck the trend of the Thanksgiving playoff thing, because when you look at the Eastern Conference, every team is 500 or above. There's not one team that has a losing record. And I know this might be because of the shootout overtime era. Everybody's just trying to get that 1 point. But this is crazy. We've played almost 30 games in the NHL season, and nobody is below 500 in the Eastern Conference. This is bonkers. So this could be the one year when you look at the standings right now. And as it stands, the Penguins and the Flyers have the wild card spots, and the Red Wings, the Senators are there. It's a weird mashup in the Atlantic Division. This could be the one year where you fast forward 50 games, and there's 6 new teams that are in the playoffs that weren't in it in Thanksgiving in the Eastern Conference. I could totally see the Bruins, obviously the Leafs and the Panthers jumping back up into the playoff contention. The Montreal Canadiens could be in there. Even the Rangers and the Islanders are right there. So you could get a full 8-team shift if you really want to be aggressive with it in the Eastern Conference. And even teams like Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Washington bow out. And you have a complete 8-team turnover. That's not out of the realm. The Florida Panthers are 6 points out of the wild card, 5 points out of their division. And they're in last place in the Eastern Conference, you guys. So in the whole division, first to last, you're looking at 9 points. That's a bad week. Go on a 4-game losing streak and you're in last place. You go from first place to last place. That's pretty amazing. And then moving west, the Edmonton Oilers, do you see them turning it around? I do see the Florida Panthers turning it around. You're gonna get Tkachuk back in the next couple of weeks, Barkov obviously is lost for the season, but Luostarinen will be back. Gadjevic will be back. Nozick will be back. I think this team will right the ship, and because of the parity in the Eastern Conference, I do see that, righting itself, and everything will be fine. They'll be back at the top of the Eastern or the Atlantic Division with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that will be back to normal times. The Western Conference, though, is another animal. I know the Edmonton Oilers are not in dead last, and I'm not going to get into a long, drawn-out podcast about their deficiencies because I think we've done that and everybody's talking about that. But boy, oh boy, I don't like this Edmonton Oilers team. I don't like where they're headed. And I talked about that a few weeks back where I think the Leafs have a better opportunity to get back into things because the guys are injured. They'll figure it out. But the Edmonton Oilers, this is a team with some fundamentally big issues that I don't think that they know how to overcome. They have the worst save percentage in the league, sitting at .873. That'll, get a little better because the last game they only gave up one goal. But this is a team that, they don't give up a lot of shots. Their goaltenders can't save them. They give up a ton of goals per game, over a goal and a half worse than the Colorado Avalanche per game. That's a lot of goals. They have the best power play in the league. That's it. So the key to beating the Edmonton Oilers is to just not take penalties. And if you can do that, you will win the game. 5-on-5, this team is bad. They're pedestrian at best. People have figured them out. They don't have other options other than McDavid and Draisaitl. Their defense is porous. Their goaltender is terrible. And it's showing in the results. They're .500. Their goal differential is -15. They are a sinking ship. They can't win close games. There is a ton of stuff wrong with this team. And I don't see them making the playoffs with the improvement of Utah, with the improvement of Chicago, Seattle Kraken having a bounce-back year, the Anaheim Ducks playing insanely good with the new coach Joe Quenneville and these young guys meshing with the vets. They're playing great hockey. Obviously, you have the Knights and the Kings, the San Jose Sharks playing. It's all adding up to the Oilers missing the playoffs. And wouldn't that be apropos to where they missed the playoffs the same year that Connor McDavid just goes, you know what? I'm going to do you guys a solid. Let's go. Use this extra money. We're going to be incredible. And then they miss the playoffs. And for the next 2 years, he just sits there not competing for the Stanley Cup. That would be cruel. To the point where what did Connor McDavid do to piss off somebody? Because that's a sick joke if that happens. But looking at the first 27 games of this season, you tell me that the Edmonton Oilers are a playoff team, let alone a Stanley Cup contender? Yeah, right. I know once they get there, they got those two-headed monster up front, but come on. Call a spade here. The Oilers suck, and they need to do something to right the ship. They can't keep doing what they're doing. Their goalies suck. Their defense suck. They have no depth at offense. They need to do something. Because TikTok. Time's running out. All right. The chunk of the show that I'm going to devote now is because of my Patreon. If you're not a part of my Patreon, you should be, because it's a lot of fun, and we got a nice Slack channel, a Discord channel. I don't think anybody uses the Discord. We're trying, but it's a nice Slack channel. Everybody shoots the breeze on that. And earlier this week, someone said, you should do a deep dive on the Metropolitan Division, because don't look now. The Metro Division's playing just some unbelievable hockey. Everybody's above 500. The worst placed team in the Metro, for Pete's sake, is 12-9-5, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Rangers have been on a heater. The Islanders have been playing great with this young crop of players and the vets. The Flyers are doing great things, and obviously the Penguins, Devils, Capitals, and the ever-consistent Carolina Hurricanes. They said, do a deep dive on the Metro Division. And I said, you know what? Yes. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Yes, I will. And so I'm looking at this division, and I'm expecting to, see great things. And the more I dig into this division, the more I think, are these guys paper tigers? Are these guys really worth the squeeze? You know what I mean? Where it's just, do any of these teams matter? When you look at the Eastern Conference right now, I think the West is strong. if I were to pick the top, I'll give them 3. The top 3 teams in the Western Conference right now, in my eyes, would be the Avalanche, the Stars, and the Knights. Those are the top 3 teams in the league right now. And then if I went to the 4th best team in the NHL, maybe Carolina, but maybe not. So in my eyes, the weight of the strength lies in the West. And you know me, I'm in it for the rings, baby. I'm in it for the Stanley Cup. So when I look at a team, I base them on, can I see this team winning the Stanley Cup? And I know it's, we're a little more than a quarter way into the season, so there's a lot of things that can change, and players get better and players get injured and moves are made. But where it stands right now, the first place team in the Metropolitan Division is the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think we can all agree on the Carolina Hurricanes that they are a regular season team. I know they've made the Eastern Conference Finals. They made it last year. They finally won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they lose 4-1. They made it 2 years ago and they lose 4-0. They made it 5 years before that. Boston beat them 4-0. They've never been a good playoff team, because when I dig into it, and when I dig, I actually dig. Like I'm interested to see who these teams are. And I think it's safe to say that the Metro Division has not been dangerous in 8 years. I know it's weird to say, because Carolina, I think they've won the President's Trophy in that time. The Devils have been very good. The Capitals obviously had that historic run a couple of years ago and then flamed out in the playoffs. But since the peak era of Ovechkin and Crosby back in 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, when they went on those Stanley Cup runs and they were really solid and dangerous and still in the height of their, careers. Since then, I think the Metro Division kind of stinks. And I know they make the playoffs and they make runs and they're good teams, but I feel like they're all regular season teams. And the top of the heap is the Carolina Hurricanes. We've been saying it for years. This team needs a superstar. This team needs somebody they can rely on. This team needs a guy who can, make that big play when they need it. And they went out and they get Rantanen. He didn't want to stay there. They go out and get Jake Gensel. He obviously moved on to Tampa Bay. They can't seem to find that guy. And that's who they are this year. I don't see them being a different team. They're 16-7-2, but I feel like their record is a little inflated. They started the season on fire. Like they just came out of the gates and they had big wins versus, the Avs, the Kings, the Devils. They were a great team early on. But when you look at their wins, they aren't that inspiring. They beat the Sabres, they beat the Canucks, they beat the Leafs when they were floundering, they beat the Flames, they beat the Islanders, the Sharks. But when you look at their losses, they're losing to the Dallas Stars. They're losing to the Vegas Golden Knights. They're losing to the Oilers. They're losing to the Wild. They're losing to the Capitals. They're losing to really good playoff caliber teams. So you can't fault them for beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. But when push comes to shove and they play a team that has any chutzpah or any Stanley Cup aspirations, I feel like they lose. And I think that's been the Carolina Hurricanes' MO for the last decade. To where, and I know the guys on Patreon aren't going to like this because I got a lot of Hurricanes fans. But when you look at the Hurricanes and how they have finished the last few years, it's just, okay, we get into the playoffs and we have a good regular season record, so we're going to play a team in division and we're going to beat them. So they match up against the Rangers or the Islanders or the Devils and they wax them, which is fun. And then the second round, the way it usually works out is they somehow dodge another team. They dodge Tampa, they dodge Florida, they dodge Boston, and then they win that round. And then they end up in the Eastern Conference Finals and it goes, oh crap, we got to play someone outside of our division. And they just get their doors beaten off. And for the last 8 years, that's been every team in the Metro. With this new playoff format, you don't have to play out of division until the second round, potentially the third round. And the way it's gone is these teams have been getting through to the Eastern Conference Finals without playing another team outside of their division. So it'd be the Hurricanes, Penguins round 1, Hurricanes, Devils round 2. It'll be the Penguins, Capitals round 1, and then the Capitals, Rangers round 2. And so on and so forth. The Rangers and the Islanders, and they kind of swap who makes the Eastern Conference Finals. For the last 8 years, it's been Carolina, the Rangers, or the Islanders. And then they show up and they play Florida, Tampa Bay, or Boston, and they just get their doors beaten off. So when does that change? I don't think it does this season. When you look at this Metro Division, Carolina's been playing great. The Capitals have been playing great. The Devils have been playing okay, but they all have their issues. Carolina, obviously, it's the high-end scoring. They're a great team, but then I think another thing we need to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes is goaltending. Yes, it's strong. I think that's buttressed it up by the fact that they have an incredible system. This is a team that's coached by Rod Brindamore. Their defense is always tops in the league. But when it gets to the playoffs, what's the main question? You can't be switching goaltenders in the playoffs. It's Anderson, it's Kochetkov, it's Mrazek, it's who is it? We don't know. It's because they don't have that 1A goaltender. I don't know. Who's it going to be this year? Brendan Busey? Peter Kochetkov? Who the hell's their goaltender? I don't know. Is it Freddie Anderson? I don't know. They all have decent stats, but come playoff time, you need that 1A. And I don't think the Carolina Hurricanes have that. I don't think they have ever had that. That's just my thought. You don't need a superstar goaltender, but you need a guy who you know is your 1A. You can't go into the playoffs going, is it Swayman or is it Allmark? Is it Anderson or is it Kochetkov? Or is it Brandon Busey? Who the hell's our starter? We don't know. It's a luxury to have 2 goaltenders who can play in a game, but come playoff time, when push comes to shove, you got to know. Like when I look in that room, that's my 1A. Now move to the second team in the Metro Division. New Jersey Devils. I've always been a fan of the New Jersey Devils. I think they are a great franchise. I think they have a lot of good young players. The issue with this team is they got to stay healthy. Like what goes on with this franchise that these guys can't stay on the ice year in and year out? It's like, what are we doing? Coming to this season, I was very excited. They got Jack Hughes back. They got Dougie Hamilton back. Everything's looking good. Everything's looking great. And then sure enough, Jack Hughes goes down. You know, Brett Pesce goes down. Zach McEwen's out. Dadonov is out. It's just a who's who could get hurt, and it seems to always be led by Jack Hughes. You know, Hirschheimer was out for a while. Brad's been out for a while, not this year. But it's just like, what can we do to keep these guys on the ice? Because when they're all healthy, when they're all on the ice, this team is a Stanley Cup contending team. I like Jacob Markstrom. I like Jake Allen. Their defense is fantastic. Brendan Dillon just played his 7th game, which is a rough game, by the way. But I like Luke Hughes and Dougie Hamilton and these guys. Simone Nemec, big dude. You know, but Jack Hughes out 8 weeks. How did he get hurt, they ask. Oh, he got buckled at a dinner in Chicago and hurt himself. What? Yeah, he cut his hand at a dinner in Chicago. And I'm just guessing this is what happened, but what adult human being, you know, a grown man, goes to dinner and sustains an injury to his hand that keeps him out for 8 weeks? What grown human being, when is the last time, everybody listening, that you went to dinner or even had dinner at your house and you hurt yourself to the point where you couldn't do your job for 8 weeks? That's 2 months. So I don't know how Jack cuts his steak, if he's stabbing it like a damn Neanderthal or if he's sawing it. I don't know how he cuts his meat, but in my eyes, and this is me just guessing, rookie party, Chicago's a fun town, out to dinner, maybe had one or two few many, maybe cheersing with the bottle, maybe something broke, a bottle of wine or a champagne, trying to do a fancy saber, take the cork off. Something like that happens. And he slices his hand. And he's out 8 weeks because it cuts some tendons. Things are going awry. He's bleeding. And you take care of the mitts if you're Jack Hughes. Right? Does that make sense to you? I haven't heard anything else. I haven't heard any any other reasons why he's out, because it's a hand injury. I don't think he fell and someone stepped on his hand and broke it. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any New Jersey Devils insiders out there. But if you're like if that's how you're getting injured, there's something going on in New Jersey, and it's not. I don't know what to tell you. Moving on, the Washington Capitals. Everybody's Cinderella team. They go out. They get a laundry list of players 2 years ago to just help Alex Ovechkin. They bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois. They got Mangiapane. They bring in Chychrun. They bring in Matt Roy. They take this team that was floundering and destined for just years of rebuild. And somehow, some way, they turn things around at the drop of a hat. The biggest one was Logan Thompson, getting him from the Vegas Golden Knights. He's been a revelation. He's going to be your game one starter for Canada in the Olympics. That's how good this guy's been. Do you think they're a Stanley Cup champion? I might. Out of all the teams in the Metropolitan Division, this team could be the one that I could think could be a Stanley Cup contender. I do think they have the high-end talent. I like, obviously, Dylan Strome is a great player. I like Protas. I like Tom Wilson. I think they have that jam. They have that skill. The back end solid. I like Sandin and Chychrun and Roy and Carlson. I think they have all the ingredients that you need to make a run. The one thing that they are missing is another high-end top six guy. I think that they could use. Ovechkin, he's not that guy anymore. If they could get another top six player to play alongside, Strome or Wilson or Protas, then this team could be very, very dangerous. But as they sit right now, I think they are the most dangerous team in the Metro Division. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they're a fun team to watch. But much like the Capitals, they're aging. They have some talent. They don't have that youthful, young stud that you can kind of build your franchise around. That's what comes from being a contender for years and years and years. I know they tried Rutger McGrody. I don't think he's that guy. But, they have good vets who are playing solid hockey. They obviously Crosby and Malkin and Rust and Kevin Hayes is playing good, and Anthony Mantha is a good player, but it gets pretty thin after that. The defense is okay. Friend of the show, Connor Clifton and Ryan Graves are playing great, but you need a little bit more to be a contender. And the more I look at it, it's just they don't have it. And it's okay, but they've had a great start to the season, much like the Philadelphia Flyers and the Islanders and the Blue Jackets. This division just reeks of, we had our run with a few of the teams, the Rangers, the Capitals, the Penguins, the Islanders, and we need some years to rebuild. We have some teams that are good, but can't figure it out just yet, that maybe in a few years can figure it out. The New Jersey Devils, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then we have the Carolina Hurricanes, who are just regular season sweethearts who just stink when it gets to the playoffs. So I apologize to everybody in my Patreon, but this Metro Division are going nowhere. I don't see any future with this division. I don't see any good young talent that is going to, shift the balance of power from the West to the East. I know they have Schaefer with the Islanders. I know other teams have good young talent. But what team in this Metro Division that you look at and you go, ooh, look at all the good young talent coming out of the New York Islanders or the Columbus Blue Jackets or those teams. I can tell you right now, when I look at a team like the Anaheim Ducks, I go, holy hell, Leo Carlson, that's a hell of a player. Cutter Gauthier, Beckett Seneke, yeah, those teams they're going to be good for a long time. Oh, then I look at the San Jose Sharks. Will Smith's goal the other night, like out of this world. Oh, Mecklin Celebrini? Yeah. William Eklund? Okay. I can get behind that. Oh, they got some good young players in the back end too. Sam Dickinson? Yeah, that's a pretty good, pedigree. There's some stock there that I can build around. So I don't see a team in the Metro Division that I can build around, that I can get excited for the future to the point where I'm like, yeah, this team is a Stanley Cup contender in the next 5 to 10 years. And they don't have that team now that's a Stanley Cup contender this year, as they're made up right now. So that's where it stands. You could put my stamp of approval on that division, that I will guarantee you that not one of those teams will win a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years. Prove me wrong. I know they're all above 500. I know they all have potential. But you know what? Next 10 years. I'll say 10 years. I'm not going to say 10. 5 years. I think that's the most I'll go where these teams. They just don't have that guy now. And from what I can see, they don't have that guy who is going to be that guy, if that makes sense to you. All right, I'll leave it at that. The Metro Division is good, but they are regular season teams. And we're going to move on. I appreciate the support, everybody. We'll be back later this week for another episode. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. And we'll talk to you later. Cheers, everybody.